On the morning of September 12th, I came down to the village. It's a little island. It's about an hour and a half by boat north of Rhodes. 350 people. Beautiful little island. And I was staying in a pension up in the hills, and I would have coffee every morning, and with my little notebook, and scribbled a couple of lines as they occurred to me. Came down for my coffee on the 12th, and there was one tavern in the village, one little tavern. There's a small 16-inch ancient television set over the counter, high over the counter, and I ordered my coffee and was talking to the Authentico, the owner. And I looked up and I saw a plane flying into a tower in New York City. And then an eruption of smoke and fire. I watched it, without much interest. And then I saw a second plane doing the same thing. More smoke, and I saw bodies plummeting from 90 stories up. And I thought to myself, oh Jesus, so they're showing these old CIA Hollywood grade B thrillers, even here. But then a funny thing happened. It was like an endless loop. The same scene kept repeating itself. So then I thought, this is Greek television, of course. Nothing works in this country. And that's one of its chief attractions, when you come to think of it. Nothing works, but hypomone, patience, kind of like that. But then it kept happening. So I asked the owner, what's going on? So he explained to me, and then of course the Greek announcer explained also to people, to his audience what exactly had happened. There was a terrorist strike in New York, and thousands of people had died. And at first I really couldn't understand. Then he mentioned the name Osama bin Laden, which was the first time that I heard that curse word. But I couldn't quite make it out. And I asked the Greek owner, what is this? What is it? And he said, Osama bin Laden, in the Greek accent. Osama bin Laden. They have a nasal N, sort of, when they before the T or the D. And I'd heard Osama. I said, he's in London too? Well, it turns out that I was instructed into the nature of the real world at that very moment. And my first thought was, I better get back we were living in Montreal at the time, now we're in Hudson. So I went to the travel agent and she said, no way, there's no boats, there's no planes, you may be here for weeks, even months, we don't know. I called my wife Karen, who was here. And they said, I don't know, I run out of books, I don't know what I'm going to do here. Luckily I was able to get off the island in time, but I spent a few days, as I mentioned in the introduction to The Big Lie, wondering what had just happened. I strolled up and down the beaches. I was by myself. The world felt as if it had changed. It's sort of like that old joke that the earth moved for you, but this had nothing to do with love. It had to do with the ultimate act of violence and an invasion of the great republic of the United States, which is going rapidly downhill these days under Obama. But it still is the shining city on the hill, as Reagan said, to some extent, even if the light is dimmed. I remember John Donne's famous lines from the 17th Devotion. He was also, of course, a preacher and the Dean of St. Paul's, not only a great poet. Reggie said, no man is an island unto himself, every man is a piece of the main, and we all belong. I was thinking, here I am on Telos, which is an island. To what extent is it a piece of the main, of the mainland, that is to say, of the United States of America, of North America, Canada? Is Telos connected to Canada and to America? And am I connected to the world? That was the real question. And then the other question that sort of posed itself spontaneously was, am I responsible? Now, this is the kind of question I never asked myself before about anything happening in the world. Am I responsible? I was not responsible for anything as far as I was concerned, except for writing a good poem. That I was responsible for. But I wasn't responsible for Canada, I wasn't responsible for the US, and I wasn't even responsible for Israel, though I'm a Jew. My mother, at that time, disinherited me. She was very pro-Israel, a daughter of a long line of rabbis, which she swore went all the way back to Maimonides in Spain, and here I was, an apostate Jew, pro-Palestinian, anti-Israeli, voting left, like Noam Chomsky and all his acolytes. Maybe not quite as hateful, because I didn't have a vendetta going. I was just ignorant. And of course, that's what I had been taught to think in a way. I picked this up at Berkeley. I picked this up in the years after from my colleagues and my friends and my fellow poets, all of whom, so far as I understood and still understand, were on the left. So it was, for me, I guess what Karl Jaspers called an axial moment. It was for me when everything changed. And it was for many people, but not that many people, a time when everything changed. Most of the people that I remember, not all, but many, just weren't smart enough to understand what had happened. That we were now at war. It's called an asymmetrical war, but it's a war nevertheless.